The miss rule, possibly the most controversial rule in snooker that creates a lot of debate. It infuriates a lot of players and fans alike due to the way the rule is interpreted in modern snooker. So is it time for change? Welcome to Table Talk, a new series by Baize Breakdown, which will dive deeper into some of the pressing matters in the snooker world. So what is the miss rule? Well, a foul and a miss is called when a player fails to hit the ball on, the ball that they were required to hit first, and, in the referee's opinion, the player did not make a genuine attempt to hit it. If a foul and a miss is called, the opponent gains penalty points, usually the value of the ball on or for, whichever is higher. The balls are replaced to their original positions if the referee believes it was a miss, and the opponent then has the option to make the offender play again from the original position or play the shot themselves. If no balls are snookered, i.e. the cue ball has a clear path to the ball on, the referee will almost always call a miss if the player fails to hit the ball on. If the player couldn't possibly hit the ball on directly because they are snookered, the referee will judge whether a genuine attempt was made. And after a certain number of misses, if the referee thinks the player couldn't hit the ball even with a full-blooded attempt, a miss may stop being called. So a simple rule, right? Well, not according to Dennis Taylor and Tony Knowles.
The miss rule had struck again. Dennis Taylor was called for 5 in a row. He lost his way completely.
Ball struck, 4, and a miss. Big price. And I've got to query that because I'm doing my best to hit the red. I've missed it by Thank you, ladies and gentlemen.
John Parrott got a lucky break when the referee replaced the balls in the wrong position. It made a difficult pot easier. John Parrott didn't look back after that. Tony Knowles was another player who went out cursing the miss rule.
I think this rule should just be dropped completely.
In theory, the foul and the miss rule is a good thing. The foul and the miss rule was officially introduced in 1995 to stop players deliberately playing a tactical miss, i.e. missing the ball on purpose, without severe consequence, which made it easy for players to escape from difficult snookers without risk, which was seen as unfair and contrary to the spirit of the game. The foul and the miss edition was designed to force players to make a genuine attempt to hit the ball on, allow referees to penalise intentional misses, and preserve fairness and the challenge of escaping snookers. You might be asking then, that sounds like a good rule, so where's the controversy?
Well, the controversy comes from it's very difficult for a snooker referee to objectively gauge whether a snooker player has made an adequate attempt to hit a ball that they're meant to be hitting. And a common issue with this is the fact that when you do snooker a player, if I snooker a player behind a yellow and the ball on is the reds, there may be a really easy path for my opponent to hit a red and thus not make a foul. But they decide they don't want to play that shot because if they played that shot, there would be an element of jeopardy. Maybe they'd leave me on an easy pot, for example. So they'll play a shot to try and leave me as safe as possible if they hit that red. Now, that is why the referee will always call a miss, because the referee will go, well, there's a red in the middle of the table that you could have easily hit, but you're trying to play on a red in an area of the table that's much harder to hit, and you keep missing it. They're always going to call a miss in that case. And that is the problem with the rule. That is why the rule is interpreted the way it is, and why so many players and fans are really annoyed. Hence the response to my poll. So as you can see from the results of the poll, the largest number of you actually want to keep it the same. So maybe I should just end the video here. But I'm not going to do that. The smallest amount of you want to abolish the miss rule entirely, which I think is a little severe and is never going to happen. But then we notice there's two 28% groups that I want to talk about. So first of all, it's for the referee to only call a miss for ridiculously poor attempts. Again, that's subjective, but I think would probably be enforced if it was just you know a player missed by like 3 foot, but the miss would only be applied in a case where it was an obviously poor attempt. Now that would mean that you actually probably could gain an advantage by missing if you decided to miss but very closely, then you could gain an advantage. So I think that's a no-goer. it's a no-goer, because then you're not really changing the rule, you're just changing the interpretation of the rule. And as we know with other sports, the handball rule in football, for example, this is not going to work. That's not going to work. So then we have the really interesting one, which I think is the one that I think could potentially be the one that we adopt. And that's if you miss the ball 3 times, your opponent gets the ball in hand. And as you can see from these comments, a lot of you actually want a ball in hand scenario. So how would that work? So say for example, player A snookers player B. Player B makes 3 attempts to hit a ball. They miss 3 times. Then player A would get the cue ball and would be able to put the ball anywhere on the table and continue with the frame. That would be a clear penalty for a player missing snookers. But there are some snookers that are so difficult to get out of that 3 attempts might not be enough. And they may be trying to hit the ball, you know, fairly, and then after 3 attempts they get penalised and they lose the frame. Again, I think that would cause chaos, because the game's called snooker, guys. You know, it's not called pool, it's not called pot, let's make breaks, let's make centuries. It's called snooker. The game, snookers are part of the game. So why should we change the game just because of the miss rule? That's my point. And to be honest with you, I'll give you my assessment for what it's worth. I don't think it's a big deal. I really don't think it's a big deal. And I think the majority of you want to keep it the same. Not the majority of you, but the largest number of you in that poll want to keep it the same. And I agree with that. I think people get too caught up in, oh, the miss rule is so annoying. Oh, maybe there should be some tweaks. Maybe referees should be given and maybe a little bit of training on when to call the miss rule. And then when there's a snooker that's so difficult to get out of, maybe some discretion from referees. But I just don't think it's a big deal. I don't even think it's a big enough deal to be making changes to rules. I just don't think it's an issue that really changes matches. You might get down the lower end where players who are less quality have struggle in matches and don't win matches because of the fact they can't get out of snookers. But if you're the world number 4 versus the world number 8, I don't think it really matters in this day and age. I really don't. With the scoring power, the potting power, how many times in a match are you going to be snookered? Maybe 2 or 3 times a match. I don't think it's that big of an issue.
Can't really give him. I mean, it's an impossible snooker. And Kyron's sitting in his chair thinking he can't really give a miss. I'm applauding that decision, to be honest with you, because there's common sense involved in that.
So my opinion is that the miss rule isn't that much of a big issue in modern snooker, and that any kind of issue with it is kind of blown up by social media, by fans, by players. However, the fact that there are so many people consistently on my videos and in this community talking about it means that it is a conversation to be had. And this is what I'm going to be doing from now on. I'm going to be making a series called Table Talk. This is episode 1 of the series, and I'm not expecting these to go viral. These are really for the snooker aficionados, the real fans. And guys, I'm going to be doing more of these, so I will be posting polls intermittently for you guys to get involved with. You guys could even get involved with what we want to talk about, what you want me to talk about and discuss, look into. And yeah, I will be posting updates of that. But if you aren't a subscriber already, then get involved, because I really want to make this channel a movement where we can, you know, get as popular as possible, make a snooker community, especially in the UK, where I think we're being left behind, guys, by China and Saudi Arabia. I think we need to get all the British fans and European fans together and, you know, support our game, support snooker. And Table Talk is going to be something that I want Table Talk to get bigger and bigger. You know, it's going to start off small. We're talking about the miss rule, but hopefully by episode 10, episode 20, you know, we're getting more and more coverage. Hopefully down the line, Table Talk will incorporate some professionals, maybe pros, ex-pros. You know, I want to make this channel bigger and better. We're doing it slowly. We're on the road to 2,000 subscribers. But like I say, guys, if you haven't already, hit the like button, subscribe. Let's try and get Baize breakdown and snooker all over YouTube.